Welcome to Building User Customized Apps. Today, in this session, for the next 55 minutes or so, we're going to learn how to build customized applications for our users where we put the user in control of the experience or of how the system works. And we also allow you to have more flexibility as your business changes so that you can more easily adapt your own solutions that you build to deal with changing in business requirements and needs and stuff like that without having to re-architect the entire stupid thing. First, a little about myself. I am a Salesforce developer with 11 certifications. I started off in the Salesforce ecosystem as a QA engineer. I moved over into a developer role, mostly through Trailhead and the certifications programs. I am a platform champion and leader of the Syracuse, New York Developers Group, which is where I'm coming to you from today. Nice, snowy Syracuse in upstate New York. And this presentation and all the metadata will be available after the presentation, easy for you to get. So no need to worry about that. I'll give you a link. I'll give you a link right at the end of the talk. So what are we going to do here? Well, we are first going to spend just a little time just saying why we do this customization. Why do we care? And then we're going to start doing things. And we're going to do a lot of things in Salesforce. We're going to make a little bit of pilot programs. We're going to do some user settable customizations. We're going to implement the same feature using 5 different methods. And so we could see the pros and cons of each particular method of how we go. And then at the end, a little bit of homework. I have a couple of ideas of things you could try out, just experiment with as you build up your toolbox, as you build up your repertoire. And of course, the link to the metadata. This presentation is talking to everyone. We are talking to the administrators, the declarative developers, and the programmers. And everything that's being covered here covers all those different grounds. Everything's also possible in Trailhead. So everything you see today will be done in a Trailhead playground. So you could replicate this and do it on your own, everything that we see. So first, what are these user customizations I'm talking about? Pretty much it's anything that lets you either let the user control how the system should show data, what to display, how the user interacts with the data, maybe pre-filled in stuff. Do we want to have things automatically filled in on behalf of the user? Maybe some things where the user can control their own automation settings. And these sorts of things can also vary in how long they last. Maybe it's just on only whatever screen you're on right now. You click a button, you make a change, and something just changes just on the screen just for now. Maybe it stays until you log out, you log back in again. Maybe it stays on the desktop, but whatever you do on the phone, it doesn't, whatever they choose doesn't apply over there. Or maybe the user makes a change and it stays that way until they change it again, which is pretty much the traditional preferences. You set up a preference, so you set up a setting, and then it stays there forever. Salesforce lets you do some of this right out of the gate, like the pinned list views. That's a user level customization. User can customize whatever list view they want to have pinned. It's there. You as an administrator don't have to enforce that in any ways. The user can change it whenever they want. Same thing with the activity timeline. If someone doesn't like the one view, they could switch to the other view, or they could have things open and close. With these expand all and view alls on the that little activity center or whatever we call that nowadays. One of the things you're going to watch for as we go through this is balancing between what you as the builder want to do, what you as the builder want to support, and how much do you want to offer to the user. Because it is very easy to offer too much customization. And if you go down that route, what ends up happening is you end up overwhelming the users. And you give them too many options, and they're like, there's too much here, and they just walk away, and they won't even use it at all. It's kind of the classic. If you ever open, let's say, like Microsoft Word 6 used to have a preferences panel that was huge. It was just like tons of features. And even now you go to Excel preferences and it's just a huge list. And people are like, oh, that's way too much. And then you go to like, I don't know, like an Apple device, and you get a very small subset of features. And it's a different design philosophy of how much do you give and how much do you control. And I cannot answer for you where the happy medium is. It really depends on your organization and what you're building. And so, why do we allow this? What's the point of this? Well, there's a couple of really good reasons for it, both from the user side and from the builder side. And administrators out there, you are builders on the system, whether you know it or not. I like to group all of everyone into the category of builder, whether you're writing code or you're doing declarative stuff. So, what's the purpose of this? Well, first off, you don't have to build a solution that applies to everyone in your organization. The company I work for, we have several thousand users, and they all work in different ways. Everyone works in their own special way. And we can't tell them to work in one common way because everyone figures out how to succeed on their own and they figure out what they need to do on their own. And so what ends up happening is a lot of times what people do is they'll build the least common denominator. They'll say, okay, I'm going to build something that kind of applies to everyone that everyone could like. And what ends up happening there is you build a solution that no one likes. And that's awful. And so instead of doing that, why don't you give everyone the ability to do whatever they wish? That's harder to do. That's why we're here today. The other reason is that if you make it easy to customize, you could do A/B testing. We could say, all right, I'm going to give these users this style. I'm going to give these users that style. We're going to test both of them at the same time, and we're going to see what works out best. You know, what's the best solution for my user base that I should roll out to everyone. From the builder side, if you build this stuff ahead of time, if you think about it ahead of time, what's going to end up happening is you will find that it's easier to change the system in the future. If anything in this past year has shown us, businesses have to sometimes change on a dime, and you have to change your business model or the way you interact. There's a lot of changes that might come up that you don't even know about, and you don't know that you don't know about. And so by using these customizations, you end up kind of training yourself to build solutions that you can change in the future. Even if you don't want to change them in the future, you think I can. The biggest thing though is if you allow this, you don't have to tell your users how to use Salesforce. You don't have to tell them how to work because they know how to work better than you know how to do their job. That's why they have their job and you have yours. Don't tell them how to work. Let them figure out the best way to work. So how do we do it? How do we do it in Salesforce? Well, there's a few different ways, and these are the major ways that we can offer customizations that are available to pretty much anyone out there right now. And they have different levels of different what's supported, what's good, and what's bad. You start with like custom labels and custom permissions, and that's really good for very global. This applies to the entire company type things. You go down a little bit deeper, you go into it at like, let's say, user record level. Okay, now individual users can make controls and we can do things with those with stuff from there. We got the custom metadata types, those are available. Those could use we could put some settings in there. We could use hierarchical settings, which and we're going to go through all this stuff as we go through the rest of the presentation. But there is a trade-off to this. The more you customize the system, the more you have the ability to customize, you're going to have a reduction in simplicity. And so this here is where we get into the whole what do we want to support as builders? Because the more we offer, the harder it is to create it and to support it going forward to a certain extent. We could argue, okay, well, maybe if we allow good customization, we're going to reduce technical debt, but even so, it requires a little bit extra work upfront to save a little bit of time later on. And so you're going to have this trade-off that you're going to have to discover as you go through. So let's start with something simple. Let's start with the pilot program. Now, I've really started to like pilot programs. In my organization, I've really been championing this for the past year. the way that See, sometimes your business owner will come up with an idea and say, I want to do X. I want to do something. Here's an example here. They say, we want to create, every time a new opportunity comes in, I want to create a task. I want to create a test for the user automatically when the new op comes in and says, whatever, say follow up with this. You know, I'm a builder on the system and I come in and I say, I don't know, that sounds really annoying. That sounds really irritating. I don't know if I'd like that. What if instead of rolling that out to everyone on day one, what if we made a small little pilot group to test this out? And we're testing it in production. We're not testing that it works. We're testing that it makes sense to do it. And so what I have here is I have a custom label created on the left, create task, a new op, just a custom label. And on the right side there, created a permission set. So first I create a custom permission called new op workflow pilot, add it to a permission set, and then assign the permission set to my pilot users. So what? Well, then we go into Process Builder. And what do we do in Process Builder? Well, we have here an OR statement. This is the defining condition on the Process Builder, the entry criteria node. And this is in the metadata that you're getting. So you could experiment with this as you wish. And it says if the user has that custom permission, or if that custom label is set to enabled for all. Which custom label? That custom label from before. You see it says pilot. If it says enable for all, it enables it for all. Why would we do that? Well, here's a good reason. You're going to have this pilot program. You're going to assign users by permission set. And at some point in time, you might say, okay, this is cool. This works. You got the feedback. Let's enable this for everyone in the company. And do you want to create a new version of Process Builder or Flow or whatever you're using, whatever technology you're using? Do you want to create a new version to enable it for everyone, or do you just want to flip a label and just edit the label and change the label? Personally, I'd rather just change the label. And here's the nice thing about changing the label. It's instantaneous, and you could change it back. So let's say you enable this, right? And you're in Process Builder, you create a new version, you enable it, whatever. And then maybe a week or two later, you say, ooh, this is not working, or we found a big issue, or something went wrong, shut it down, stop it, turn it off. Do you want to have to take whatever development work you did for the past week or two or three, or whatever you did, and figure out what you changed to do a rollback on that, or to disable it? It's a pain in the neck when all you can do is just flip it on or off. And for you mixed environments where you got admins and developers, this is a great way to put in a kill switch for your developers. So a developer could build, a custom coded thing or a trigger or something. And if they reference these custom labels and custom permissions, you as the admin could enable and disable those features without having to redeploy code. So you're not reliant on that whole find a developer, make another change on the code, or have his unit test run, have her put it through the CI/CD. Forget all that. You can just turn it on, turn it off, instantly in production. Let's move down the stack here. That's a relatively easy one. Let's go into Lightning apps. We have a lot more power now with Lightning application, with the Lightning apps and the pages, especially with dynamic forms and dynamic actions coming out. Here's going to be one that we're actually going to look at inside Salesforce. And we're going to use the user record to make this happen. A common problem that people have is they come into Salesforce, they might be brand new to it, and they have no idea how to use the system at all. And before you say, oh, go to Trailhead, I'm not talking about that. I mean, using the system, as in, I got like 7 stages of my opportunities. What do those mean? What do these fields mean? What do I use this related list over here for? Here's a little widget that has a call out to an outside service. I should probably put a disclaimer in there or something. There might be a lot of stuff like that. It's like, how does the user actually know how to use this stuff? And also maybe some of the user interface. It's like, well, we'll put some stuff on the UI, and some users say, I hate that, and some will say, I don't like it, and some say, I really want that. So let's give the user some control on this. Let's go right into Salesforce right now. First, let's take a look at the what we're going to do, and then we'll see how we did it. We're going to load up accounts. First thing, the extra help. So you can see here, there's some information, the above, this is quick views, this is how it works. Over here, we got some information about, about activities and how they work. Over here, accounts are businesses, we have customers, contacts, blah, da, 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 da. And so we have some little help scattered throughout this entire system. At some point, the user is going to say, I get it. I get it. Shut it off. I don't care. Okay. Show tutorial. Next and finish. And now they're all gone. And let's bring them back. Why don't we bring them back? Oh, look, they're back again. Now, what about this quick links? Some people love having these quick links up here. Other people say, this is really irritating. Can't you just make it go away? Well, okay. There. Now they're gone. You want them back? Okay. We'll bring them back. And this is controlled on a user by user basis. So how do we make this work? How does it happen? Well, I'm going to go into my user object. And I have two fields here. Show related links is a checkbox. Show tutorial is a checkbox as well. And then in the Lightning page, we're going to open our builder. And then we're going to use conditional visibility. User show tutorial equals true. And if it's true, it shows it. And if it's not true, it doesn't show it. Same thing with the quick links here. Show relay quick links is true, or it's not true, it hides it. And now to enable and disable these, what do we do here is I have a flow. So I have a simple screen flow. And let's go into flows. Let's take a quick peek at flows. Which flow did I put it in? Quick link settings. I think that's the right flow. Yes, it is. So I get the user's current setting in the flow. See, object user ID equals user ID of the person logged in. Show relay quick links, store the setting. I echo out to the user. Show relay quick links. And you notice the default value is the value I pulled from the record. The reason I'm doing that is because when the user goes in and says, should I see or not see these quick links, I want to show them their current preference. So I kind of preset this here. So if it's enabled on the user record, it shows up checked. If it's not enabled, it shows up unchecked. And then the next screen is just says, okay, whatever the user chose, set it. And then a follow screen saying, hey, your settings have been saved. And the nice thing is when you hit the finish button, the flow automatically kicks off a screen refresh. And so it updates automatically saying, all right, now here's your new settings, which is quite nice. Not every time you do something in Salesforce, that doesn't always happen. So it's quite a nice little feature for that to happen. And so this is like the minimum that you could do practically to allow a user to control this stuff. And this is set on a user by user basis. Let's go down a little bit further. Let's go down this customization path a little bit further. We have another requirement comes in. Users are on opportunities. They want to see data from the accounts page. So they want to see the details on the accounts. Okay. We could throw a related record component on the screen, right? That's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And this is not a made-up example, by the way. This is something that actually did happen to me at my job. So here we are. This is just a related record component. It's pulling in the fields. It's pulling in from something declarative. Everyone gets the same one. Everyone gets the same view. It's like, all right, fine. That's not really exciting. All right. We do this. We throw it out there. We ask for user feedback. We maybe have pilot users with a conditional visibility. And we say, what do you want to do? What do you think of this? And this is what the users come back to us with. This is what they give us. They give us a bunch of data. Some of it's contradicting. You see, one person says they don't need a CSLA. The other say I need to see it sometimes. One person says I don't need this field. The other person says I want one of these other fields. One person doesn't need the edit page. Whatever. You get this is what happens when you do user feedback. You get a whole bunch of different things, and you know, I've noticed. Okay, I see a couple of groupings here, a couple of major pieces of information, and so say, all right, what if instead of showing all what is this, 7 fields, account name plus the 7 fields, what if we broke this up into various groups? What if I group these things together? So let's do that with custom metadata. Why not? So let's go into custom metadata. And so I've created a custom metadata type that has each one of these fields as a checkbox. Show account, show each one of these. And then I've created a couple of major groupings here. Account SLA, account other, none, all. And so what's in these? Well, I've checked off some of the boxes. Some yes, some no. And then what do I do? Well, then we create a flow. And so let's open up the flow. And what is the flow going to do? We're going to get the opportunity record that we're currently on. We're going to get the related account right here. We're going to go into custom metadata, and we're going to say, give me custom metadata records. And check for settings. We're going to check if a record actually exists. And we're going to update a screen flow based on the custom metadata that the user chose. So you can see here I have each of the fields, and hiding under here is the custom visibility, where I say, okay, if it's on, show the field. If it's not on, don't show the field. I'm going to put that all in the screen flow. And then we're going to have, at some point, the user is going to have an option. I'm going to give them a drop down, a pick list here to say, which one of these stupid things do you want? And then update the user record. And so, let's go over to here. So we can see, okay, I could see these over here. I'm going to hit the next button. I'm going to say, okay, let's see. Oh, let's see them all. Okay, I can see them all. All right. Let's go. Let's say, let's see everything else. Okay, now I get less fields. What if I want to see none? What if I don't care at all? Okay, fine. Then you get nothing. Happy now? And so, okay, that works. That's okay. That worked out decently. And we went through it. It works. What am I going to complain about? Well, let's get some more user feedback. And now what are users saying? Oh, we expand our pilot and our users they're pains because now we got a whole bunch of contradicting stuff. Look at that first user. They just want to see expiration date and upsell. That's all they want to see. Second person doesn't want to see expiration date. Another person, everyone asking for everything all over the place. I really love the second to last person. I don't like anything. I don't know how many times I've had a user say that. So now we say, okay, everyone wants something different. What if I, as administrator, say, all right, everyone wins. Let's just create a custom metadata record for every combination of 0 to 7 fields. Let's just give them everything, right? That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. We should do. Ooh, there are 128 combinations of these 7 fields. That's a lot of records. I'm gonna mess that up a lot. And this is only 7 fields. Keep in mind, this doubles every time you add a field. If you had 8 fields, now you're looking at 256. If you had 9 fields, 510. You have 10 fields, you have 1,024 combinations. This isn't gonna work. This is not gonna offer the ability to say, give me anything and everything that I want from this. Let's think of a different solution. Let's let the users deal with it themselves. Let's let the users create their own custom metadata record. And what we'll do is we'll let them create custom metadata, and we'll put a lookup, we'll put a user ID field, and we'll key off that. And that's not there's another problem. Users can't modify custom metadata records within a flow. In fact, users can't modify custom metadata records unless they go into setup, or you have the administrator do it. And as an admin, I don't want to have to play with this for every individual user. This is not going to work either. We got to have something else. Got to have a better solution for this. And this is where custom settings come into play. And I've noticed a lot of people out there aren't too familiar with custom settings, or at least how they work, especially this hierarchical thing. Then everyone's like, "What is this? What are we looking at?" um, they're really actually not that bad, not that difficult. And if you understand how custom metadata works, they're going to look very similar. See, the way custom settings works is it's hierarchical, where you set up these values just like you would have for custom metadata, but there are two things added on to it. There's a user ID a lookup that's basically added automatically by Salesforce, and a profile lookup. And so when you go in with your formula fields or your Apex code or your flows, what ends up happening is you could just ask the system and say, give me the setting for this particular user. And if the user has a setting at the user level, it gives you that. If there is a setting at the profile level, but not the user level, it gives you the profile level, as in the third column here. If you set it as an organization-wide default, you get the org-wide default. And so they kind of override each other. And as a builder, you can control where any of these are accessed. So you could just say, give me whatever should be in the hierarchy. You could just say, give me the setting on the user record. And so like if for this one, if I did a query on what is the value of the user level of call center, I'll get back a null, no data. And I might find that interesting in my code. I might want that. I might want to do it at that level. I might not care about this hierarchy thing. I might say, we're not dealing with profiles. We're not setting org-wide defaults. User level or nothing. User level or default, and that's it. And that's fine. You have control over all of these. You could select from any of this, or just say, just give me the bottom line. And so what we're going to build with this is we're going to build a solution that is effectively just as complex as what we just seen before, but now we have much more flexibility from an end user perspective. So let's see in Salesforce custom settings and account quick look. So I basically done the same thing that I did in custom metadata. I've created a checkbox field for each of these fields. I'm going to hit the manage button just so you can see what it looks like. And you can see here in the manage, this is where I can see who's been using these settings. So you can see this is a user level. So this is for me. And these are my settings. And this is what I set as a user. So when I log in, I'm going to see, when I use this component, I'm going to see these values. And you as an administrator, you can go in and you could change this here on behalf of the user. So you could set these for them, and you could change it. You could do whatever you want. You could override them. If you know SQL queries, you could query for these to find out what settings people are using. But you can see here location, user or profile. If you don't have any setting there, it sets it to the default. Going into the flow, let's go to the flows, custom settings. get the record, get the accounts, get the custom settings. So far, everything's the same, except here I am getting my custom settings. In flows, custom settings are treated like objects, so they look like an object. Same thing here. Is there a custom setting set? Yes or no? If there is, here's where I set my visibility. So I say, okay, whatever I got from my user's custom setting, I put over here. Once again, with the screen flows, we have those there. We have the custom visibility hiding over there. And then the last part here is that I do a check to see if there was a custom setting for the user, because if they do not have a user level custom setting set, I do a create record. If they have an existing one, I do an update. And then in the system, if I go to, let's go to settings. So here's my custom settings, and you can see my fields that I've selected. And now I could say, okay, I want to see you, I don't want to see you, I want to see you, I don't want to see you. You know what? I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. I just want to see upsell and SLA expiration. There we are. SLA expiration and upsell. You know what? Let's throw those two on as well. There we go. Now we got 4. And as you can see, the user is controlling this. And so now everyone's happy. Everyone could have whatever they want, and I could just set up a default value where I could say, all right, if I don't have a custom setting, here's your defaults. You can customize this however the heck you want to do it, which is much, much nicer if you ask me. Lets everyone be happy. And you also notice there was no really added complexity over doing this as a customized setting versus doing it as a, custom metadata. It was just as complex, but now it's infinitely more changeable, and users like being able to be in control. For developers out there, just a quick little note, these custom settings are very easy to get in code. You basically just query for it and you say, give me whatever the custom setting is. So in the first line here, I grab the custom setting. Second line, I'm setting one of the values. Third line, I'm doing it as an upsert. If they don't have a custom setting, I get back a null, and then it just inserts it on behalf of the user anyways. It's quite nice. So let's take a real quick look, and admins, don't check out here. Even though we're talking about code, I don't want you to go off and say, okay, that doesn't apply to me. This applies to you too, because you can demand as an admin, you could demand from your developers to do stuff like this to allow you to be more scalable. And you as admins are probably bearing the brunt of user complaints. People probably are going to come to you before they go to the development team. And so you could say, this is affecting my life. Build these systems that are scalable and changeable and settable like this will make me happier. So you could demand, and you could also see how easy it is. So you can tell developers, no, I don't want you to be lazy. Don't be lazy developers here. Someone needs to put them in check. And I say that as a developer. So what do I have here? I have a Lightning component. I have not done this in Lightning Web Components yet. I'm doing it in Aura. You could do it in Lightning Components as well. That's the next thing on my list of things to study for in Trailhead. So I have a very simple controller. This is a lot of demo code. This might not be the best way of doing it necessarily, but we're going to go with it. Where I have a bunch of conditional visibility here. If these things are set, I'll put the fields. And then a simple little input thing for dealing with letting the users turn these things on and off. Then it calls your helper. It does the callback. The controller itself is very simple. You get the settings from there. You got a save preferences thing. I got a wrapper class to return back the values. And you can see here, this is what it looks like in the in the code, on the page. There are my fields. I could turn these on and off as I wish. So let's say I'm just going to turn those two on and off. And now it's just like that. And yes, I know this is ugly and misaligned and stuff like that. It's just demo code. And the one nice thing here is that these settings will overlap between the two, between declarative and non-declarative. So I have these first three, the annual revenue, customer, and employees. I'm going to reload the page just to make sure that it actually reloads my component over here. And you see it's pulling it up over here. And so you're not restricted. This is not a declarative people do this, programmers do that, and nothing speaks to each other. Both declarative and programmatic sides of this thing can both talk to each other, and they both could use these same sets of settings. So you are not competing against each other, right? But there is a catch that I must warn you about when it comes to custom objects. Custom settings. You have a very limited amount of space. You are limited to 10 megabytes or 1 meg per user if you have less than 10 users. Now, 10 megs is a lot of data. It's like 5,000 Salesforce records. Okay, it's a lot, but there are people out there who are in very large environments, or you might want to put these all over the place, and you could hit that limit. And the thing about custom settings is it's stored in what's called the application cache, which means it's, from a code perspective, it's very fast to access these custom settings. And when I say code, flows are code to a certain degree. Flows are code, okay? So, anyone out there working only in flow world, you have to care about performance because flows can be awful too. And so maybe you might actually hit this limit. Maybe you have an organization that has 20,000 users and you want to give them all stuff. Okay. You might have an issue. You might run out of space. And as far as I know, you can't increase this 10 megabyte. I think that's actually a hard limit. So instead of doing it through custom settings, you can create a custom object instead. So what I have here is I created a custom object. I call it custom preference. Not the greatest name in the world, but it works. And I put all of my preferences in here. Check back, show undo, do, everything here. Everything's the same, except there's one special extra field, a lookup field to the user object. And so this field determines which one of these custom settings applies to this user. And so in my flows or code or whatever you're doing this in, instead of looking up on a custom setting, instead of looking up in the custom metadata, I'm doing a get on my custom object. You know what? That is the wrong flow. This is the right flow. Custom object. But look at it. It's the same flow. It's the same thing. It's virtually okay. It's virtually the same thing. All you got is this is over here instead. But you can see here, custom preference. It's pulling from this object, and I'm saying where that user field is equal to user ID. If you do this, of course, you're going to want to make sure if the record exists or not. If you get something back, so that's why you have to have this new record versus update record down here, just like we did for custom settings. But we're still talking about the same stuff, right? And it works exactly the same. Everything's the same on this, and it's great. The only thing is, and this is the catch, you can't reference custom object settings directly in formulas. The formula will have no knowledge of what exists. Maybe if you figure out some way to play with it through like a relationship lookup or something like that, whatever. But generally speaking, you have to do some form of a SQL query to get this custom object settings. And that's good and bad. It's great if you're in flows and it's great if you're in code. Process builder people, you're hosed, switch over to flows, but it does require a SQL query. So it does require dipping into the database to grabbing some of that, to grabbing that setting. That does take time to do that. And that does matter. And if you, let's say you're importing settings, that could make, or you're importing data, or you have a data integration that goes on, it's firing stuff off. Those things can slow down your code, and those things can slow you down. And even if you're just declarative developers, declarative, flows do take up time, and they can run inefficiently, and you can very easily get a too many SQL queries errors with flows. If you create 400 flows on the account object, all running whenever a flow is whenever an account's created, well, guess what? You're going to run into a problem. You're going to hit governor limits too. So you do have to think about this, and you have to be very careful when you go down this whole, all right, I'm going to query for a custom set object thing. I don't want to dissuade you from doing it, but it's just something to think about. As you build the systems, always think ahead. Because your company is going to be successful, and you're going to have to deal with this 4 years from now. Don't regret what you do today, not thinking ahead of what could be later on if your company is successful. I know we're running close to my time limit, so I just have some extra, I guess you could say, homework. These are just some ideas to kind of go and try doing yourself, just to experiment with this. One of these you do have partially implemented in the metadata that I'm providing. So this last one here, users default account or opportunity teams. So normally, you have to, for an opportunity team or an account team, you have to say, I want it on or I want it off. I have no choice in between. And what I said is, what if we gave the users a little bit of an option there? So what if, instead of saying, all right, must be on or must not be on, what if we had a condition for when the default team should go on? And so I have here a flow that every time the opportunity is created, I do a check to see is the user has a custom setting. And for this one, I said, okay, what if the user's custom setting is opportunity amount? So you know that standard field in opportunity is called amount? Let's say the user wants to have really big opportunities, like let's say the opportunity is 10,000 people, $10,000, add the default opportunity team. If it's a small one where let's say the opportunity is like $1,000, don't add the default team. I don't care. I just want to deal with that myself. And so we could use that to say, okay, figure out, do we want to add the team or not? And you can get the default team, both the account team and the opportunity teams. You query for it. So I query for it, loop through every one of those, and do a create opportunity team member, adding them automatically based on whatever their opportunity team is. Same thing elsewise with the account teams. I've only partially implemented that. Feel free to finish it. And how to get all this stuff? SyracusDevelopers.com/LC21. So if you just go here, you will have access to this slide deck, all of the metadata. So if you're an SFDX user, download the zip file, install that way. If you are, let's say you're you don't use that, you want to do it through a package, I have the instructions of how to install this in your playground. And it's really pretty easy and pretty straightforward. And so just go and play. Just go and play with this stuff. Try it out. It's really fun stuff. And if you have any trouble, feel free to reach me on Twitter or email. I'd be very happy to talk to you about this. And I thank you for coming. It's been great being here in London, and I hope to see you next year. Thank you.